In this video, we'll look at what is perhaps the most powerful feature of Adobe Connect, and that's the ability to modify layouts and pods. When you first enter your Connect meeting, the first thing you'll notice is that the video, attendee, and chat pods are on the other side of where you're used to having them in Collaborate. You can leave them there, that's fine, but each of these pods can be moved. When I move them, you'll notice that I get a set of dashed lines. This shows me that my attendees pod is now lined up with the Start webcam. So this is very helpful in aligning pods. And now I have the layout that I'm used to. If I'd like, I can shorten an individual pod and make another pod a little bit longer. I prefer a longer chat room. So one of the things I'll want to do as I look over here at my layouts, you notice that my discussion and my collaboration may have a similar sort of layout, so I can play with them as well and set them up any way I want. Another nice feature is layouts can be copied. So for example, I do like to have a meeting every once in a while where I use my webcam, but often I'll just use the audio and have my attendees in chat. So I can go up to Layouts and create a new layout. And it will ask me, do I want to start with a blank one, or would I like to duplicate an existing layout? So I'll go ahead and duplicate the sharing layout, and I'm going to call this No Vid Sharing. So this is my sharing layout that doesn't have the video pod. I'll click OK, and it will add this sharing layout to the bottom. Now for ease of use, I can move my layouts and order them any way I want. So I'm going to put my sharing and my no vid sharing together. So clicking here, making sure I'm in the no vid share, I can do several things. So the first thing I'll do is go to the pod options and hide the video pod, which removes it. I'll now move attendees up, move my chat room up, and make my chat room longer. And this is the normal configuration that I can then use for most of my meetings. So that's duplicating an existing layout and rearranging it so that it works for you. Now I created it by going to Layouts and create a new layout. I could have also clicked on the little plus sign down here. That will also let me add a layout. Let's look at building an entirely new layout. I'll click the plus sign. I'll indicate that I want to create a blank layout, and then I'll give it a name. And so I'm going to create a layout for online meetings. I now have a totally blank layout, and I can start to look at my pods. I have share pods, notes, attendees list, the video, the chat, an area where you can do file sharing, an area where you can publish web links, a poll, and a question and answer pod. So I'm going to create a new share. And this is where you have to get used to the idea that if you add a new share, it becomes different than this share window. And I'll explain that in just a second. So I'm going to click Add Share. Connect will automatically have that share fill up the screen. So I'm going to resize that. I've created a number of shares, and you'll notice this one is called Share 20. Why did I create this instead of using the same share I use for my class meetings? Well, if I used this share and I put something on the share, I share my screen, that would show up in my meetings share as well. Likewise, if I put something up here, such as I'm sharing the screen of a student, we're doing a little bit of office hours, this share would show up in all of the others. So when you create a share, rather than having it called, say, Share 20, you can double click on the name and call it Share Meetings. Now if I create any other meetings where I want the content from this shared window to go from one meeting to another, I would use my Share Meeting pod. And when I click on pods, it now adds that. So I have my share and my share meetings. So one of the things I'm going to do so I don't confuse myself is I'm going to go back to the layouts that I would use for class and rename this as Class Share. When I click on my NoVid, it says that's Class Share. When I look at my pods, it's renamed that to Class Share. So you can have multiple shared windows, as I mentioned in one of the previous videos. I'll go back to my meetings, and I'm going to add two other pods, a chat pod. And again, I'm going to add a new chat. So I'll double click it and call it my meetings chat. And then realize I should probably go back up and say meetings share up in my shared window. So I'll fix that. I'll resize the chat window. Next, I'll add a notes pod. And I have two choices, discussion notes and notes. And it turns out they're exactly the same thing. They're just named differently. However, in keeping with my making sure that my notes stay different from my class and my meetings, I'm going to add a new note and call this one Meetings Notes. And I'll spell meetings correctly. Now I have one last pod that I'd like to add, and that's just the attendees, so I can see who is in the meeting. So I'll rearrange my pods, make some room, and add my attendees pod. Work on resizing it. Again, I have my little guidelines to help me. Make sure that everything is lined up. And so now I have a configuration for meetings. So to summarize, when you first enter your Connect meeting, you'll have a sharing, a discussion, and a collaboration. This is the default layout. You can modify any of these layouts by moving the pods around. You can duplicate a layout to create a new layout where you might add a pod, delete a pod, or you can create a layout completely from scratch. A few last options. In the menu, under Layouts, you have Manage and Reset Layouts. From personal experience, do not use Reset Layouts. What this will do is it will reset all of your layouts back to those standard sharing, discussion, and collaboration. If you've changed a layout or you've added layouts, those will disappear. You can, if you'd like, close the layout bar, which provides you with a little bit more space, and then you just have to come up to Layouts to change the layout you want. You can reopen the bar by clicking here. The last option in Layouts is Manage Layouts. This will let you go in and look at your various layouts. You can delete one. Let's say you wanted to get rid of that meetings one that I created, or I could rename them here. And I can also move them in order, and you notice as I click the up and down arrows, it's rearranging them here in my layout. So I'm going to leave meetings at the bottom. I'll click done. And I have a similar sort of option in pods. I have manage pods, and this will let me go in and look at all of the pods, the standard pods and any pods that I've created. By selecting one, I can rename it or delete it. You may want to come in here every once in a while if you've been creating a lot of pods to just clean up ones that you're not using. So if you click Select Unused, of which there aren't any right now, so that's why that's grayed out, that will show you any pod that you've created that's not used in a layout. So that's how you can rearrange pods or create new layouts to create whatever configuration of meeting space you would like. And by using the Layouts bar or selecting in Layouts, you can dynamically switch within a meeting. And for me, this was the one thing that was really missing from Collaborate, to be able to lay out my meeting space to meet my meeting needs as opposed to the standard layout. So have fun creating your own layouts for your classes.